And welcome to Ask the Experts here on Newstalk 1290 CJBK on this Saturday afternoon, joined by our real estate expert from LePage, Triland Realty, Joan Ball. You can call Joan at any time, 519-672-9880, joanball.com, the website address. And we say hello to Joan. How are you, my friend?
I am doing very well, Ryan. And you?
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Lots to discuss here on the program. You were just up in Ottawa at a event dealing with real estate, of course. We'll get into that in just a moment. We'll talk about the interest rate hike that happened earlier on in the week. But I want to ask you right off the top so I don't forget. I've had this on my mind for a while, and I know you will be able to answer this for sure. When you go to MLS and you're looking at a listing and it says time on realtor.ca and it'll give a figure of how many days. But I've noticed a few homes where I'm thinking those homes have been up for at least a couple of months, but it'll say something like 10 days. Is there a reason for that? Do they reset after a certain amount of time?
So this is what I'm actually involved in trying to have a push for this because those are the days on market since it was last listed. So it may have been canceled and a new listing came out, or it may have expired within the time frame that the original contract was and come out again, perhaps even at a new price. So the collective days on market are not indicated. So our days on market right now run about 30 days is what's posted. But I did a little test yesterday, so it's so coincidental, but not perhaps, that you brought this up. I did a snapshot of one day, and when I looked at had they been previously listed and for how many days, I can see that from the back end. It came out to an average of 72 days on market. So you're right in that it doesn't necessarily give the true reflection of how long that property has been on the market. So, that's one of the things that is really important because most of them, if not all of them, have recognized a price reduction as a result of being on the market, and perhaps the seller, perhaps the agent felt that at that time it was justified and they quite honestly thought that the value is there and they could get that price. But for whatever reason, it wasn't happening. Right. And so you do have to fine-tune your listing. And sometimes it's just in what you attend to and fix up. You may give it a little bit more curb appeal, gardening and cleaning up and that kind of thing. It really depends on how you approach it. But obviously, condition and price are the two things that you can adjust and certainly then give it some recognition. And that may be why it hasn't sold. And properties are taking longer to sell, whereas a year ago, we were about 7 to 10 days on the market. And think of it, we also were holding off on offers on most, if not all, properties that were on the market. So if we had taken offers the first day, we might have received offers that first day. So that even was stretching it a bit. So right now it's taking much longer to sell a property.
Excellent.
There's more on the market.
Gotcha. There you go. Well, thank you for answering that question, as only you can, Joan. It's something that you have just recently been sort of checking into, so I appreciate that. Joan Ball on Ask the Experts, our real estate expert for a good reason from LePage, Triland Realty. You can reach Joan at 519-672-9880. Joan has some information to pass along to us from a recent conference that she attended in Ottawa very recently. But first, we will talk about trends, Joan, and yes, indeed, must touch on the interest rate hike that was announced earlier on in the week. You take it from there.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say congratulations to Josh Morgan and the counselors that were elected and the school trustees. Very active week there, and I'm looking forward to Josh stepping up as far as assisting in some of the development infrastructure that's needed. Hopefully we can loosen up some of the permits so we can attend to the supply. The interest rates did blip up this week. We expected 75 basis points. It went up 50. So not quite as much as we initially thought it was going to increase by. But this is really having an impact on some of the buyers just getting a little bit sort of sitting back. Some buyers are saying, listen, this is still a good rate. Let's go in. I'm getting a better price on properties, and it's adjusted somewhat in that regard. I wish, certainly we had seen the initiation of interest hikes a little earlier, so it wasn't such a shock to the system, and it didn't so dramatically turn the tap off. We've had a lot going on as far as interest rate hikes over the last year, and I think we will see a little bit more, and obviously to combat inflation and try to curb that. But it is costing people more to purchase a house. So for an example, if someone bought a house for $850,000 a year ago, it would cost them the same as buying a house for $650,000 right now. So put that into perspective and really think about that. So it's costing individuals more to purchase a house. Now the prices have adjusted somewhat. So is that leveling out to some degree? But I'm seeing a lot of buyers step up and say, okay, I think I'll deal with this until now, so that I quite expect that 2023 will see some kind of leveling out and maybe even a resurgence later part of the sort of late spring. So I expect that's going to happen. London still has a draw. And just to put it into further perspective, it's estimated that Canada-wide, we have a 3.4 million unit deficit of properties needed.
Wow.
That's an apartment or a house or a townhouse, 3.4 million deficit right now. So we have to, if we're encouraging immigration and all of that, we have to recognize that we really need to get the supply up in what we're developing and building.
Joan Ball on Ask the Experts here on Newstalk 1290, CJBK, joanball.com. The website address, the phone number, 519-672-9880, 519-672-9880. I think there was a news story earlier in the week, Joan, pointing out that London... we had the biggest rent increase year to year, I think, or close to it in the country. Does that lead people as well to think, well, you know what, then if I'm going to be spending money month after month on, somewhere to live, I might as well put that into a long-term investment, hence maybe looking at buying right now and seeing maybe the prices come down a little bit as opposed to a year ago.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that individuals are recognizing that the rental market is getting very tight. And so if they're investing, some first-time home buyers are looking at the potential of having income potential within the property that they're buying. So that's very apparent that investors are certainly recognizing the demand for rentals and how tight it is, and I think that'll continue for quite some time.
Joan Ball on News Talk 1290, CJBK, Royal LePage, Triland Realty. Joan's phone number, 519-672-9880. That's 519-672-9880. We'll pause here and come back, Joan. We'll talk about your conference that you attended recently in Ottawa and some of the issues that you explored there when we return here on Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290, CJBK. And welcome back to Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290, CJBK. Our real estate expert, Joan Ball, with us from Royal LePage, Triland Realty. You can reach Joan at 519-672-9880, joanball.com, the website address. Back to normal as we can get, Joan, these days?
I wouldn't say we're normal. I think we certainly we're still favoring the seller side of things. So surprisingly enough, and I think that this is where you really have to sharpen your pencil and make sure that you're attending to everything you possibly can or want to when you're presenting your property. So those properties are getting attention. I'm not seeing a flurry of multiple offers, and I'm certainly seeing conditions and certain aspects from the buyers that I wasn't seeing in the last few years. So, I wouldn't call it a normal market. I would call it a transitional market.
Gotcha. And what about going back to, call it normal protocols from several years ago, open houses and people going to see the homes in person? Is that all sort of straightened out?
Yeah, I would say that those have been initiated. I'm not necessarily seeing a huge response to them like there used to be, and I think that that's just cautionary from a lot of individuals who certainly may not be comfortable going into someone else's house without their agent, or just browsing through and running into other people. So it will take a little bit to maybe adjust, and we might not ever get completely back to where we were. Certainly virtual open houses or virtual tours, floor plans, all of those things are helping buyers get a better sense of the property before they actually go in.
Good stuff. Take us back a week or so ago, Joan. You were in Ottawa at a very interesting conference. Tell us what it was and some of the issues that were discussed.
So I think it's really important for people to understand that the Canadian Real Estate Association, which I am a member of, is very active in assisting everyday citizens in anything that they see as needing attention for the federal government. So this is the Political Action Committee conference, and it was instrumental in pulling together about 400 delegates from across Canada that could meet with their individual representatives on Parliament Hill, and really to give a focus on what we view as needing a push. And really, one of the things was establishing a permanent national housing roundtable, because we have the data, we have the information that would help them best be guided as far as where the needs are and where the focus is, and also leveraging infrastructure funding. You can't do a development if you don't have that infrastructure to be able to support the lack of supply that we need to fuel. And so that was really, really important. We did obviously talk about the most recent marketplace program, which I want everybody to realize, and it was around mortgage fraud. And it was highlighted specifically, I believe, to new immigrants and their lack of understanding and comprehension about the process. So do know that this is not how business should be done. This is a couple of bad actors that certainly will be reprimanded, I believe. And we as an industry are certainly behind ensuring that this does not occur. The other thing we discussed was opening up the blind bidding and how that would work. And Mike Moffat with the Ivy Business School had a fabulous presentation, probably my best at the conference, and it was really data heavy and I loved it. But he was talking about the research he's done and finding that the open bidding, where everybody knows what everybody else is bidding, actually led to higher prices. So this is an interesting conceptual view and maybe a misunderstanding from some. And really it's almost too late because we're not seeing the competitive market that we were. And but that was fascinating to come at that. And then the next part was the exclusive listings. A lot of people saw coming soon and then all of a sudden sold, and they didn't get a chance to look at them. The Canadian Real Estate Association is now indicating that we need to, if we're going to market publicly, then we need to post it on the MLS system and have it exposed to everybody. That's the fair way of doing it. We'll do that within 3 days of initiating a sign or any public social media promotion or any advertising on property.
Interesting. And to go back to what Mike Moffat was speaking about, open bidding, and you say we're in a different market than we were going back a year or so ago, but how would that work, Joan?
So an open bidding would be that everybody would give permission that their information was disclosed, and so all buyers, and obviously the seller is always made aware, but all buyers would be made aware of what another buyer, any of the other buyers were offering, and perhaps the terms and conditions of their offer. The difficulty I have with it is, say, for example, in London, and I'll give you an example. When we were in the height of the market, I was shopping with buyers in the Lambeth area for a one floor with a pool. And so when we had 8 offers, 7 of us went away. But guess what? The next one floor with a pool, we all went back to the table. And if it was open bidding, we would all then know what our strategies previously were. And we ended up bidding on 5 different properties before we, in fact, secured one. And it would lead to a fair bit of insight from the other parties on what your individual strategy might be, and that might not work in your best interest. So there's some things to be ironed out here, and we'll see if it actually comes to fruition.
And just one final question on the open bidding then. So would everybody get a chance then to rebid, like up their bid then, if that was necessary? If they want?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, interesting. And the exclusive listings, again, so you're trying to maybe eliminate that into the future?
The exclusive listings, yes. What we're doing is in Korea is indicating that anyone who wants an exclusive listing can certainly promote it verbally or within their own office. However, if they start doing public promotion and advertising, then it really is an opportunity for the general public to be made aware, and therefore should be posted on the MLS system within 3 days. This avoids perhaps the listing agent selling it himself or herself without the seller really having the benefit of full exposure. So we really thought that was the fairest way, and I think this is something that will certainly, it's indicated to be put in place shortly, and I think it'll lead to a sort of a fairer market, really.
Joan Ball on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290 CJBK. Lots of information when Joan joins us here on Newstalk 1290 CJBK. You can reach out to Joan at Royal LePage, Triland Realty, 519-672-9880, joanball.com, the website address. Sarah here has a question. Joan, she would like to know, I am retiring in the next few months as I will be moving out of London after my retirement. Would it be best to list now, or does your experts see the housing market shift in the seller's favor next year? From Sarah.
So I would want to ask Sarah a few things. For example, where are you moving to? Are you going to be purchasing there? What's the market like there? Is it an increasing market? Certainly we're seeing some evidence in Alberta that that's an increasing market, and even on the East Coast in some areas they're increasing markets. So Ontario is not faring quite as well. We're not doing quite as well. We're certainly down. So we're looking at, that for Sarah may make the difference. Is it better to, look at what the prices are doing now here in London and not knowing if they will fall further, and they may before they start adjusting out and leveling out. So it really would be a multifaceted approach to assessing when and where and at what time Sarah would want to get onto the market. If she's asking from a traditional response of buyers are routinely usually on the market in a little higher numbers in March and April and May. So that if she wants to hang on, that certainly if she's going to be renting where she's going, you may want to wait until that happens. But again, we may have higher interest rates, and there's no guarantee that the pricing will have adjusted or flattened out.
Good stuff. And feel free, Sarah, to reach out to Joan at 519-672-9880. Visit the website, joanball.com. Here on Ask the Experts, back with Joan Ball, our real estate expert on News Talk 1290, right after these. And welcome back to Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290 CJBK. Our real estate expert, Joan Ball, joins us here on the program from LePage at Triland Realty. Joan, we talked off the top of the program about MLS and days listed online and that type of thing, and you answered the questions that we had quite nicely. I'm just wondering, too, because you touched on when there's a price change, somebody lowers the price of their home. Aside from what we were talking about earlier, but does lowering the price, does that put sort of a negative stigma on the home?
Well, I am of the mindset that you do as accurate an assessment and an evaluation on your property prior to putting it on the market.
Okay.
You know, that is always going to serve you. However, markets do shift and adjust, and as we saw in May and June, it really, for the most part, we had buyers just step back significantly, and there was far more competition, which created the scenario where a property that a year ago may have flown off the shelf with multiple offers may have been sitting a little bit dormant, and then as the prices adjusted further, might have to recognize a price reduction. So that's just the reality of the market. But my model for sales is very front-end loaded. Get everything as ready as possible. Make sure you've sharpened your pencil as far as your list price, and you've got it as accurate as possible, and then market with confidence.
Makes a great deal of sense. Joan Ball on Ask the Experts. One from Ben here, and before I even ask the question, I'm going to say to Ben, you should reach out to Joan here because great question here, but certainly you could answer this in greater detail off the air. But anyhow, Ben has a question. I am a first-time home buyer and wanting to get a better sense of how it works buying a home. Can your expert indicate what is the best way of getting this information?
Well, there's a number of things that Ben will need to become informed in regard to. And I've always looked at it as I am an information broker, and my job is to provide as much information as possible. I have done home buyer seminars in the past. I'm looking at doing one again. So if Ben would like to reach out to me, either by email or phone, I can certainly register him for the home buyer seminar. And within that, he will get a lot of exposure and information about how to negotiate your mortgage. How does the mortgage work? What are all the details and information that he needs to best prepare himself for even viewing properties? What are his needs? We need to do a full needs assessment so he knows exactly what would work for him. And there's a lot of information to go over. I spend about 2 hours initially with any buyer before we actually go out and look at properties, just to give them a full outline on how it works. I have home buyer guides that certainly my clients get for free, and it really helps them become best informed and gives them that foundation of knowledge.
Awesome. So, Ben, yes, feel free to reach out to Joan. You can call her at 519-672-9880, joanball.com, the website address. Joan's email address is on that website as well. Here on Ask the Experts, Joan Ball is with us here on Newstalk 1290, our real estate expert. And, Joan, if I can take something from the show here, you gave, as I mentioned earlier, lots of great information. But when we do look ahead to 2023, you've got a positive outlook.
I do. I think we're very fortunate in Canada, I have to say. Our economy is doing much better than a lot of countries. I think we have a vibrant community. We're very attractive to a lot of people. And I think if we can really work on the supply aspect and boost that up and loosen up some of the red tape at City Hall, it'll help us go a long way to getting our community where we need to. And there's other things that I would like to address, but I'll do that directly to Josh.
Awesome. There you go. Joan Ball on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290. CJBK, our real estate expert from Royal LePage, Triland Realty 672-9880. JoanBall.com, the website address. And that's what Joan does when she wants change. She goes right to the top, and she can do that. Joan, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. You have yourself a great weekend, and we'll talk again in 2 weeks, and we'll listen for you Monday to Friday. Real Estate Matters here on Newstalk 1290. You take care.
Thank you, Ryan. You as well.
Awesome. Joan Ball on Newstalk 1290 CJBK from Royal LePage, Triland Realty. Stay tuned.